Pitt County stands as a distinguished hub for business and industry, offering an appealing blend of affordability, liveliness, and a welcoming environment for families.
And welcome to the Pitt County Board of Commissioners meeting. We'll have call order and have roll call, please. Okay, if you would, please stand with me, and Commissioner Manning's going to give our invocation.
Bow with me, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we humbly come before you tonight asking for your guidance as we take up the people's business. Bless us, Lord, that your will be done. And dear God, please bless America. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Commissioner. Please remain standing, and I'm going to invite Zariah Howard to the podium, and she's going to lead us in the pledge. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Zaria Howard. I'm a senior at North Pitt High School. I'm currently involved in Link Crew, Avid, and National Honor Society. Thank you for having me for this evening, and at this time, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may now be seated.
Thank you so much. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Please vote. Madam Manager, do we have any public addresses to the board?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, you have two people signed up to speak. First is Carla Farmer. If she's coming up, if the attorney would read the statement.
Pitt County welcomes all comments on matters of public concern. Each speaker will be allowed up to 3 minutes to speak. A total of 30 minutes is set aside for public addresses to the board. Please state your name and address prior to speaking.
My name is Carla Farmer, and I reside at 3281 Hudson's Crossroads Road in Greenville. I'm here as one of 3 school nurses who have been informed that due to a reduction in funding, our employment will end on June 30th, 2026. Last month, you heard from my colleague, Erica Turner, a school nurse with Pitt County Schools. Tonight, I'm here to reinforce how critical and timely it is to address the proposed reduction in school nurses. I want to be clear. None of the 24 school nurse positions have been temporary since June 2024. Currently, there are 24 school nurse positions plus 1 manager serving Pitt County schools. The proposed funding for the 26-27 school year is what's in question, hence the 3 positions. Each school nurse is responsible for approximately 1,000 students, well above the recommended ratio of 1 nurse to 750 students. The 3 school nurse positions in question, we serve 6 schools. Without them, that's more than 3,000 students that are going to have to be reassigned to nurses who are already stretched beyond safe and recommended limits. At this point, this is not a question of awareness. You've heard the concerns, you understand the workload. The question now is whether action will be taken. When nurses are responsible for multiple schools, there are unavoidable gaps in coverage. This leads to delays in response, increased reliance on non-medical staff, and greater risk during urgent situations. We are already operating at the limit of what is safe and sustainable. Removing these 3 positions does not maintain the status quo. It increases the strain and the risk. This funding request is a direct and practical step to address these gaps. It is targeted, necessary, and overdue. I respectfully and strongly urge you to support this request and vote yes to preserve all 24 school nursing positions so we can continue to keep Pitt County students safe, healthy, and in the classroom where they deserve to be. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, Ms. Farmer. Appreciate you coming out.
Your next speaker is Ann Shea Fenner.
Good afternoon. My name's Anshia Fenner. I live at 4744 MLK Drive in Grimes, North Carolina. I came to speak to you today because I had the privilege of marching with thousands of educators on Friday who were all crying out for the same thing. They were asking that we please do better for our students, that we please pay teachers a living wage. When we consider all that teachers have on their plate, I don't think teachers should have the additional burden of financial hardship. I am an educator myself who would love to return to the classroom, but I can't go back teaching in North Carolina because teaching means I can't support my family. If I want to teach, my option right now is to leave North Carolina and do it in a different state. I believe teachers and educators, we're not asking for much. We're not asking for the world. We are just asking to be able to do our jobs, to do the things that we love, and to help the children and communities that we care so deeply about. If you look on social media right now, if you look at this social media posts right now, you'll see what's trending is that North Carolina is ranked 46 in the nation for teacher pay. And I asked myself this, and I ask you this as well, is that what we want to be known for? A place that can't retain teachers, we can't recruit teachers because we don't pay teachers fairly? Or do we want to be known as a state that puts children first? So I'm here on behalf of teachers, and we are asking that we please pass a budget that pays teachers a living wage. We ask that we invest in our public schools. And I ask that people like me can return to the classrooms and not be forced to leave North Carolina if I want to do the thing that I love most, because presently, if I were to enter the classroom, I can't also support my family. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fenner. Appreciate you coming out this evening.
That's all that we have.
Okay, we'll move on to presentations. Madam Manager.
If there be a motion to approve items 1 and 2 under your presentations, then we can go down front.
Okay. Got a motion and a second for 1 and 2.
Melvin, you can join us. It is my pleasure this evening to recognize the achievements of one Girl Scout Gold Award and multiple Boy Scout Eagle Scout Awards this evening. Our Girl Scout, Madison Wallace, was unable, due to an unexpected circumstances this afternoon, unable to join us this evening, but I wanted to recognize Madison Wallace for achieving the Girl Scout Gold Award for a project that she entitled Threads of Comfort. We will mail her certificate of recognition to her to celebrate that incredible milestone. And following that, we have several Eagle Scout Awards to present this evening. The first one, if he would come forward, is Cutler Holloman. And you're welcome to bring any family with you that you'd like. And Cutler will get you right here in the middle. You are standing beside Commissioner Melvin McLawhorn, an Eagle Scout himself, and Chairman Mark Smith. And we'll have family gather around. And it is my pleasure. Benjamin is with Troop 9046. And for his project, Benjamin, why did I say Benjamin? Sorry, you are Cutler. I mixed that up again. I'm so sorry. Cutler Holloman is with, does it have your troop number on here? 9046. So I had your troop right, that's correct. And Cutler receives the Eagle Scout Award for a project where he remodeled the upstairs of his church. And this certificate of appreciation is awarded to him by the Pitt County Board of Commissioners this day, signed by Mark Smith, Chairman, and presented by him and Commissioner McLaughlin as well.
Cutler, on behalf of the Board of Commissioners, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Is there anything you'd like to say? All right, let's squeeze in for a picture then. Excellent. Thank you so much. Next, we have Benjamin Bailey. Right there in the center with your family.
How you going, sir? Thanks.
Benjamin is also from Troop 9046, and he achieved his Eagle Scout Award. His project was construction of retirement boxes for American and service flags at 4 waste sites. And we'll present this certificate to you in honor of your accomplishment.
Benjamin, on behalf of the Board of Commissioners, congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
And we'll scooch in for a picture. Congratulations. And the next one I have is Evan Updike. Is Evan present this evening? Fantastic. You're welcome to bring any family with you that you'd like. Excellent. Thank you all for joining us this evening. We are pleased to present a certificate of appreciation awarded to Evan Updike and for achieving the Eagle Scout Award. His project is that he constructed 6 benches at perches at Eagle's Nest. And we'll have the chairman and commissioner present that to you.
Evan, on behalf of the Board of Commissioners, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Benjamin Pruitt. Benjamin Pruitt would come forward with Troop 25. You're welcome to bring your family. We're pleased to recognize Benjamin this evening for achieving his Eagle Scout Award, and for his project, he renovated the community garden for the city of Farmville. I'll present you with that certificate.
Benjamin, on behalf of the Board of Commissioners, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good job again.
Thank you.
And next up, we have Colton Lundy. With your family. Excellent, thank you. And we are pleased this evening to present a certificate of appreciation awarded to Colton Lundy for achieving his Eagle Scout Award. For his project, he constructed a shed for the Ronald McDonald House right here in Greenville.
Awesome. Colton, on behalf of the Board of Commissioners, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Grab a picture. We'll scooch in just a little.
All right, thank you,
Thank you so
guys.
much. Okay, that concludes our Eagle Scout Awards and an incredible accomplishment for each of these young gentlemen. It is something that is, do you want to say a few words about Eagle Scout Award?
Well, this is the highest award that you can get in scouting, and we certainly appreciate your achievement, and we wish you Godspeed in your future endeavors. Congratulations.
The final round for the whole group. Mr. Chairman, now we have two proclamations that have been signed within your authority, and the first one is for ALS Awareness Month. For those who are here for that proclamation, if you would come forward. Mr. Lewis. Make sure I've got that name right. Yes, Catherine, tell me his
Ms.
name.
Gallagher, I had an email from him that he may not be here.
Okay, all right. Would you, and I know it was a request to certain commissioners to recognize, would you like me to read it or send it to him?
Well, both, I guess.
Okay. All right. This month of May, the board has declared by proclamation to be ALS month. And this proclamation reads, whereas ALS, known as Lou Gehrig's disease, is a progressive and fatal neurodegenerative disease in which the brain loses its ability to communicate with the muscles, resulting in the gradual loss of a person's ability to walk, talk, eat, and ultimately breathe. And whereas thousands of new cases of ALS are diagnosed each year, and on average, every 90 minutes, someone is diagnosed with ALS and another person loses their life to the disease. And whereas individuals diagnosed with ALS typically face a life expectancy of only 2 to 5 years from the time of diagnosis. And whereas the exact cause of ALS remains unknown and there is currently no cure. And whereas military veterans are disproportionately affected by ALS and are more likely to develop and die from the disease than those without a history of military service. And whereas access to new therapies, durable medical equipment, and advanced communication technologies are critical to improving the quality of life for individuals living with ALS. And whereas clinical trials are essential in the development of new treatments, improving patient care, and advancing assistive technologies. And whereas the ALS Association is the largest philanthropic funder of ALS research in the world, having committed more than $154 million to support over 550 research projects across the United States and in 18 countries. And whereas the ALS Association remains committed to making ALS a livable disease while pursuing a cure for all people everywhere. And whereas ALS Awareness Month provides an important opportunity to raise public awareness, recognize the profound impact of this disease on individuals and their families, and encourage continued support for research and advocacy efforts. Now therefore, the Pitt County Board of Commissioners resolves to recognize the month of May 2026 as ALS Awareness Month in Pitt County, and urges all citizens to join in supporting ALS research, advocating for increased funding, and standing in solidarity with those affected by this relentless disease. This was adopted May 4th, 2026, and signed by Mark Smith, Chairman of the Board, and Kimberly Hines, Clerk to the Board. And we will get that to Mr. Lewis, who asked that this be presented this evening. And I'm sorry that he could not be with us. And then our last but not least proclamation, if Andrew Schmidt would come forward. Welcome. It's right in the middle.
Thank you.
Yes, our second proclamation this evening, we are pleased to recognize National Travel and Tourism Week for 2026. To Andrew Schmidt, the President and CEO of Visit Greenville. And this proclamation reads, whereas the travel industry is essential to the success of every industry and will continue to be a critical part of Pitt County's economy, development, and workforce. And whereas travel is an economic powerhouse for every state and destination across the country, with an economic output of $3 trillion, supporting 15 million American jobs. And whereas travel spending supports vibrant and safe communities in North Carolina and across the United States by generating $92 billion in state and local tax revenue in 2025 to support essential services such as education, emergency response, public safety, and more. And whereas travel enables success for all industries, including manufacturing, agriculture, defense, healthcare, and more, by driving sales growth, innovation, education, and operations that power our economy, our nation, and Pitt County. And whereas travel and tourism are essential to the economic vitality and quality of life in Pitt County, generating a total economic impact of $320.11 million, a 2.3% increase over last year. This contributes $11.92 million in state taxes, $9.66 million in local taxes, supports 2,108 jobs for local residents, and ranks Pitt County 26th among North Carolina's 100 counties in visitor spending. And whereas 1 in every 11 U.S. jobs depend on travel, making it a critical driver of America's economy and a force for connection and opportunity. And whereas travel and tourism is an essential industry, and we must continue to communicate that growing travel leads to economic growth, benefits businesses, fosters mutual understanding, and connects the nation. Now therefore, be it resolved, the Pitt County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim May 3rd through 9th, 2026 as National Travel and Tourism Week in Pitt County, and urges the citizens of Pitt County to join in recognizing the essential role this industry plays in Pitt County. Adopted this 4th day of May, 2026, signed by Chairman Mark C. Smith and attested by Kimberly Hines, Clerk to the Board. Mr. Chairman, if you would present that.
On behalf of the Board of Commissioners, thank you, sir. I see where you were retiring.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, and we look forward to the Travel and Tourism Luncheon on
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. And then I believe, are we up to the budget? Yes. And I don't need my drink. Mr. Chairman, the next item on your agenda is presentation of the budget. If you
Okay.
don't mind, I'll stay right
All
where
right,
I'm
we'll turn it right over to you.
All right. Good evening, members of the Board of Commissioners. I am pleased to present to you this evening a proposed balanced budget for fiscal year 26-27. Any questions before we get going? All right. And we've got a slide presentation to work through with you. This budget reflects the hard work of the Financial Services Budget Team, made up of the individuals seated behind me, Michael Hardy, Susan Stokes, Sharon Roundtree, and Susan Boyd, along with much input from department heads, community partners, and elected officials, including the Sheriff and the Register of Deeds. The annual budget is one of the most important things that we do each year, as it sets the path for success for the upcoming fiscal year. I'll spend about the next 30 to 45 minutes providing a very high-level overview of the recommended budget, and then you'll hear from the larger funded entities and have an opportunity to ask detailed questions and review the budget during workshops the remainder of this week. Also, you have in front of you a notebook, and that contains more detailed information about the budget, along with a copy of this PowerPoint for your reference as we go through it and for during the week. Remember that what I'm presenting to you is your budget. And what I'm presenting tonight is a recommendation. I welcome your feedback throughout the week, so each of you will have full confidence that the public dollars are being spent wisely and strategically when we take this proposed budget to a public hearing on June 2nd. This year, we focused a lot on the development of Pitt County's first ever strategic plan, and much time and energy has been spent engaging residents, community leaders, commissioners, staff, and others to gain insights in the best strategy to move Pitt County forward. The board approved the major concepts of that plan in February, and you'll see it in final form for approval with the first year's work plan on May 18th, your next meeting. So aligned with those efforts and in keeping with the development of a theme for a budget each year, the theme for this year's budget is just one word: strategic. You will see the funds begin to align with that strategy, and you'll see strategic investments in areas that we have heard are most important to our community. The strategic investments in the budget, proposed budget, align with our updated, simpler mission statement. Pitt County enhances the community's well-being with care, respect, and efficiency. It advances our updated vision, community at heart, innovation in mind, and it provides the tools and resources needed for county government to serve in accordance with our core values, being professional, collaborative, compassionate, accountable, and innovative. We do this to advance 4 core objectives that were approved in concept by the board this February: community well-being, economic vitality, balanced development, and organizational excellence. And then, as I said, on May 18th, you'll have a chance to see the full proposed strategic plan with the tasks associated with each objective for your final review and approval. Every year, the budget starts with a review of revenues, which creates a blueprint for what we can spend and accomplish for the year ahead. This takes into consideration about a 3% natural growth increase in property tax revenues, continued countywide growth, strong but decreasing interest income, steady sales tax, and continued uncertainty in federal and state impacts. This proposed budget remains conservative, it lives within our current means, and it does not recommend a tax increase. We allocated these revenues with 5 objectives in mind, aligning our priorities and the strategic plan, focusing on our greatest asset, which are our public servant employees, from both a recruitment and retention perspective, meeting departmental needs, respecting our budget drivers, and ultimately achieving balance. We do this through the same methodology that we've done in prior years. We forecast the revenues, we justify the expenditures from a zero-based budgeting method, which means we don't just take last year's budget and add to it. We start from the beginning each year to determine the true needs from a zero-based budget method. And then we review line by line to achieve efficiency to gain the greatest impact with the fewest dollars. And so the drivers this year that shape this budget: recognition that we're in a non-reappraisal year, so tax revenues are going to remain steady. However, inflationary impacts have caused expenditures for the same items to increase, and those expenditures and inflation are increasing at a faster pace than our revenues are. Despite this, the proposed budget still invests generously in our employees, in education, and in county facilities. Another driver involves human service fund balances, and I'll talk about that a bit further when we get to the slide on human services, but something I want to make sure you're all aware of. So let's turn to revenues specifically. As you know, as to the process each year, we form a blueprint by looking back 3 to 5 years. We identify trends in revenues, we consider market factors, we talk to the subject matter experts, and we make our best projections for future revenues. This year, we project revenues to support a budget of just over $427 million, with the primary source of revenue, 60% of those funds, coming from ad valorem taxes. And then you can see how it shakes out down that list. Other taxes are primarily sales taxes. Intergovernmental funds are those coming from state and federal government, and so on. From available revenues, we turn to expenditures and distribute it across expenditure categories to balance at the same amount. And when you look at this, as a piece of the pie, education continues to take the largest percent of your budget at 22%, followed by public safety, human services, and general government. The other, at the bottom of that screen, represents pass-through taxes collected from municipalities that you may recall, according to accounting principles, have to run through our budget as both a revenue and expenditure. And that's what that other of $63 million is. And these expenditures represent strategic investments, with the largest increase we've ever given to K-12 education, supporting classified salaries, teacher supplements, fixed cost increases, and specific capital projects, while also supporting community college operating and particular capital needs. County government only works because of the work of our employees, and I'm recommending that we continue to invest in the salary and benefits to attract and retain the best and brightest public servants right here at home. You will see strategic investments in capital, land use planning, programming, and staffing throughout this budget. So with all of this included, your general fund budget is about $10 million more than it was last year, representing a modest 5.25% increase over last year's budget, which is fairly steady. So going into each of these investments a little deeper, what does that investment in our employees look like? It looks like a 3% cost of living adjustment for all employees, along with a merit increase of 1.2 or 2.4% depending upon performance. It includes state-required increases to employer contributions toward employee retirement accounts. Despite the increase in cost of health care, it holds employee premiums constant while increasing the amount that the county pays to keep that fund solvent. And if approved by the board and as requested by employees, it includes a new policy which will be brought to you on May 18th to allow for 5 days of bereavement leave for employees who experience death of a close family member. Currently, the county does not have bereavement leave among our benefits. And so if somebody in your family passes, you would have to use personal leave or sick leave. We've had multiple employees reach out asking if we could offer bereavement leave. It's not a number that's going to impact your budget, but we'll bring that proposed policy to you on May 18th, and if the board chooses to approve it, that would be in the complement of how we're investing in our employees this year. Also new new this year, subject to board approval, of course, is a cost share program for regenerative medicine, another item identified through employee feedback. And so currently we have a self-insured health insurance fund that pays for all of the health care incurred by our employees each year. And we use Blue Cross Blue Shield as our third-party administrator to help us administer those claims. By doing so, we take advantage of Blue Cross Blue Shield discounts and their administrative services. This budget includes a modest amount of money to pay in a cost share program toward regenerative medicine. So one of the things we've noticed in our health plan is that we've had increase in joint replacements and other ailments that impact joints that are otherwise treated for those who choose to follow that path through regenerative medicine. And so this budget allows a cost share for our employees to add that to the complement. I think at the end of the day, when we track the results, it may ultimately save in our actual healthcare costs towards surgeries and other remedies for those ailments. And then finally, this budget also adds 6 new positions to our workforce of the 42 requested to work alongside our talented staff. This is what the costs look like in greater detail for retirement, 401k, life insurance, and hospitalization. And this is what our employees will continue to pay towards coverages for optional coverage for employees, spouses, and children. And you can see by those numbers and given our current salaries and those costs that it's important to our workforce that they not be increased. As to fees as a revenue driver, there are no changes in fees this year except in public health for services that they provide, and those will be discussed in detail during their presentation in workshops tomorrow. And then we'll talk about our investment in education. For Pitt County Schools, we're recommending almost a $5 million increase over last year, or 9% increase over last year. And this funding this year will be divided by purpose and function. As between the ask and the recommendation, the proposed budget honors our commitment for the second half of the classified salary study. They asked for $1.83 million, and we're recommending $1.83 million in this budget. It covers fixed cost increases for the schools. They asked for $2.23 million, and we're recommending funding at $2.23 million. And we continue to honor our commitment this year, bringing teacher supplements up to 9% over what the state provides. It provides $1 million for general capital needs, as we provide each year. It does not, at this phase in the budget, and we'll discuss it further during workshops this week, it does not backfill state or federal funding for Chromebooks or nurses. And this is how the funds look when allocated by purpose and function rather than as a lump sum. There are purpose and function codes, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, and on the prior screen you saw capital needs coded as 9,000. And 5,000 represents instructional services, 6,000 system-wide support, and 7,000 ancillary services. And within those categories, the entire recommended budget for the schools is divided and can be utilized for that. If they have to switch between categories over a certain percentage, then they'll have to come to you. And then in addition to these allocations, 5 additional capital projects are being recommended to be cash funded from restricted sales tax revenues, which puts almost another $2 million for projects towards Pitt County Schools, which we can talk about when I get to the slide on CIP, or Capital Improvement Program. And for Pitt Community College, a true driver in our community for workforce development, I'm recommending that we fully fund their operating request, keep $100,000 for capital, and add $3.8 million in one-time cash-funded projects this year utilizing restricted sales tax. This will keep them moving forward at a modest pace. You'll recall their request was much larger than that, but I believe this is what we can afford this year to cash fund, and it includes their $2 million water line project, a $1.2 million Phase 2 for roofing, and $500,000 for security improvements. Now the hardest part of this budget, or the hardest part from my perspective as staff, was the human services, social services, and public health, and you'll hear from both of them tomorrow. While both budgets remain fairly flat year over year in total value, the way these budgets are funded and have been funded is evolving. For many years, unspent funds allocated to the Department of Social Services and Public Health did not fall back to unrestricted general fund like unspent funds in all other departments do. Instead, unspent funds in Department of Social Services and Public Health fell into what we call assigned fund balance lines intended for use by those departments. Not a terrible concept until those unspent funds over the years accumulated for each of those departments into the double-digit millions. And at the same time, the county was looking for new revenues to fund growth and expenditures in those departments while we had these big pots of funds set aside that weren't being used, separated or assigned from the general fund balance. So several years ago, it was decided to be intentional about the use of those funds rather than generate new funds for human services agencies through a tax increase or otherwise. There was a plan to use those balances until they were depleted or brought down to a more reasonable amount because they were just sitting over there, not getting the biggest impact for their use. So we've done that over the last several years in a plan that was intentional. And this year, we have reached the point where DSS fund balance has been depleted. With the proposed budget, public health will be depleted next year. So at the same time, my goal has always been to budget what is needed so funds provided are not in excess at the end of the year, falling back at all. We want our projections to be as close to actuals as possible to reduce unintended fund balance buildup, right? Your best budgeting accurately projects your revenues against your expenditures, and you hope to come out fairly even. And so, we've done that. We've not added significantly to those fund balances this year or last year. But why does that make this budget particularly hard from a number crunching perspective? Because we must now rely on current revenues to make up for what was coming out of that assigned fund balance for social services going forward. And the same will be true for public health next year. So we're doing that as an intentional plan and eyes wide open. The good news is that we were able to absorb it in the current budget, and it will not be an issue for social services going forward, and then we'll tackle this again next year for public health. But 2 challenging years because there was a significant amount of that fund balance used to balance their budget as part of this plan to bring those numbers down and keep all of your fund balance in unrestricted general fund, giving you the maximum use and flexibility of unspent funds year over year. So I just wanted the board to understand, without getting too far into the weeds, and that might have gone a little far into the weeds, but I wanted the board to understand that there are technical and strategic shifts in how Department of Social Services and Public Health are being funded this year within available revenues, and then we can talk about that even further detail in their workshops tomorrow. And that's how fairly flat in terms of expenditures. Just the difference was really in the technical funding, with about $60,674,000 going to human services, as is broke down on your slide. Shifting to public safety, I'm proposing fairly healthy increases in the sheriff's office, detention center, emergency management, and animal services, with operations remaining fairly flat and percentage increases in those budgets driven by capital investments that we'll talk about in the slides on capital improvement. Of note, in the sheriff's office, it includes 2 new positions in detention that were previously grant funded for the SHARP and WARE programs. It replaces approximately $1.2 million in lost revenues from the sheriff's decision to no longer take federal inmates due to her space concerns. Those revenues in prior years offset the sheriff's office expenditures and will not be received or be able to be budgeted as a revenue next year. So we backfilled that about $1.2 million in funding to balance the sheriff's budget. It also funds a new sewer auger at the detention center, vehicles, and continues funding for fire alarm upgrades. So you'll hear from the sheriff on Wednesday. And I'm sure that she is going to ask for additional funding for vehicles and additional funding for positions. She requested 18 new positions for this year's budget, and I'm recommending to you that we can afford 2 of those positions. In talking with the sheriff, these were the 2 that she felt were most important among those 18 that were requested. And then I'd ask you, as you look forward to the week, not to get caught up in small amounts of each line item in the sheriff's budget. Because as tight as these budgets are, and as close as we try to project revenues to expenditures, line by line, the sheriff's office over the last 3 years does not spend all funds allocated to its budget, and unspent funds at the end of each year fall back. Right? And that creates, unspent funds that fall back each year, creates some degree of cushion or flexibility between lines to know that if, for example, you're looking at a line for dog food, I don't know that it makes super sense for this board to add $500 to a line for dog food when we know in last year, fiscal year 25, the sheriff was allocated funds, $2.4 million of which she did not spend. In 24, she was allocated funds, $2 million of which she did not spend. And in 23, about $2.8 million of which she did not spend. And so that's based on our best projections and the ability to do the work. But I don't think you or I need to get overly caught up in particular lines, knowing that there is a degree of flexibility within a $48 million budget that will carry the sheriff through year over year. Turning to the EMS district fund, I'm recommending no change in the EMS tax, holding that constant at its current rate. EMS revenues, this slide shows the revenues that are derived for emergency services. They are derived from the EMS tax, transport fees, Medicaid funds, and miscellaneous funds from grants or other funds. EMS fund balance is utilized for one-time capital expenditures, and total funds coming in for EMS are sufficient to cover almost $15 million in expenditures this year. In the proposed budget, each of the 7 nonprofit squads will hold flat in their funding to prior year, which is a reminder, is the highest funding they've ever received at over $500,000 per squad. Turning to fire, you have 4 departments requesting an increase in their fire tax this year. Bethel, Farmville, Grimesland, and Stokes are each requesting increases to 1/4 cents, 4 cents, 1 cent, and 2 cents respectively. Only one department, Bethel, is requesting a $25,000 contribution towards a fire truck through our existing capital support program that provides $25,000 to up to 5 departments annually towards the purchase of a fire truck. And as you go through your notebook on your own time, you'll see on page 16 all of these rates that you can review and the purchase requests. And now to our partners. And these numbers for partners are in larger print in the PowerPoint you have and in your notebook on page 17. But I have added time on the last day of our budget workshops. That's new this year. But I've added a little bit of time on the last day of our budget workshops to delve into this further. But today at a high level, I'm recommending that we meet the operating request for Shepherd Memorial Library and then contribute $50,000 towards the $66,000 requested for capital improvements. And we can talk about all of these Thursday in further detail. And you may be surprised at the amount of funds in the Shepherd Memorial Library's fund balance. I'm recommending that we meet the full request for the Council on Aging and Pitt Greenville Airport and Invest Greenville as our sustaining agencies. I do not have funding plugged into the budget this year for the Convention and Visitors Bureau, as all of the prior funding that we've given them was from one-time ARPA funds when occupancy tax was suppressed due to the pandemic. Occupancy tax has become strong again, and I'd like to discuss this further with all of you Thursday in budget workshops to get direction on how you want to handle a contribution towards the Convention and Visitors Bureau. I'm recommending that we hold constant on funding for Community Crossroads, Drug Treatment Court, Greenville Public Access Television, the Little Willie Center, and NC Stop Human Trafficking. The proposed budget also includes funds that are new requested this year for Behavioral Health Treatment Court, Victorious Living, and the Moy Wood Boys and Girls Club, as each of these entities' proposals and requests were strategically aligned with the county's objectives. I'm recommending that all other libraries that we fund, and also the Grifton Civic Center and the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences, remain constant over last year, and we've added funding for a one-time special request for the Grifton Brown Hodges baseball field. With the arts, I'd also like to have a little further discussion with this in workshops. Our recommendation this year is to streamline arts funding through our established Arts Council. Ultimately, jurisdictions like ours, you will see typically allocate $1 per capita for the arts, right? Greenville follows that structure and model and gives the Arts Council $100,000 per year. Pitt County has gradually been increasing its contribution towards the arts and enhanced our engagement with the arts. If any of you have been to the community centers lately, you'll see the county's participation in the Down East Rotating Sculpture Project or program. We have had tremendous positive feedback on our county's engagement with public art. And so I am recommending in this budget, and we can discuss further on Thursday, that we consolidate our arts funding and increase our contribution to our Pitt County Arts Council to $75,000 this year. It's an incremental increase, not near the dollar per capita if you figure the county's per capita at 100 and Greenville's per capita at 100. Ultimately, the Arts Council would love to see a contribution close to 100, but I think that we could creep it up a little bit this year if it is this board's desire to continue on this path supporting public art. And we're almost through. Human resources. Additional positions that were requested in full are all on page 18 of your notebook. I'm recommending 6 new positions this year. 2 in 911 due to increased call volume. 1 custodian that's needed for the incredible use of the cultural arts and recreation community centers. 2 positions for the Sheriff's Sharp and Ware programming that are no longer grant funded. And a physician assistant in public health. That public health position was requested last year. We deferred it until this year so that there would be additional time to assess the need, and we had a contract employee in place. We are now satisfied that that position is necessary to assist with adult and child clinic services, and you'll hear more about that position in Public Health's presentation tomorrow. And now to the one-time capital expenditures. You've heard about all of the projects in your January capital improvement workshop. Well, it really wasn't in January. I think we did it in March, originally scheduled in January. And I'll go over the ones that I believe we can afford this year. For general government, that includes vehicles, building maintenance, and security. We've included the new county administration building, but there are no funds, no cash funds in this year's budget. I wanted to include it to keep it top of mind, but that project, the design should be complete this fall. We bid it out this winter, and then you'll get a better idea of actual cost. At that time, a capital project ordinance will be developed in conjunction with a borrowing or bank loan when that project is ready to be bid out. We're continuing the Microsoft 365 implementation that has been transformational for Pitt County, and this budget proposes to fund security and furniture improvements at the courthouse. So that $47 million number is really 47 minus 44.5 as your general fund investment towards general government one-time capital projects. For public safety, it funds ambulances, cardiac monitors, one EMS station in Government Circle. I did not include funding in this year's proposed budget, subject to your further directions, for the Chicod site this year. As with the demolition or other planning needed to site that station, it is more likely that that will happen in the following fiscal year. And so I only included funds for the one station at Government Circle. It funds a new sewer auger at the detention center, and it funds renovation for a surgical suite for spay and neuter at the animal shelter, which is a major step towards controlling our pet population. For economic development, we've included $4 million from existing economic development funds for possible land acquisition. And then for education, on the K-12 side, it funds 5 projects. It includes the $1 million for recurring projects, and then a transportation tow truck replacement, an intercom replacement, a switchgear replacement, and D.H. Conley's fire alarms, as well as a canopy replacement at Walcoats. And for Pitt Community College, it funds the security access control upgrades, a roof replacement, and water line improvements. For environmental protection, which includes our solid waste and soil and water, we've allocated $50,000 towards additional snagging. You may recall we had allocated $100,000 in prior years. We've identified some good opportunities to supplement that funding with outside grant funding. So we've reduced it to $50,000 of county funds this year, hoping to be supplemented throughout the year with outside grant funds for additional snagging. And then your list of various equipment needs for solid waste, all of which are covered within the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund. So there you have it. We'll continue with budget workshops this week, where I look forward to your feedback. We will hold a public hearing on June 2nd, and I look forward to adopting a balanced, timely budget as required by law. The following slides show your agendas for the next 3 days. So tomorrow you'll hear from Sharon Rochelle and Wes Gray on social services and public health. On Wednesday, you'll hear from the courthouse, sheriff and detention, and Pitt County Schools. And then on Thursday will be our catch-all day for follow-up items, Pitt Greenville Airport, Emergency Management, Pitt Community College, and then that extra session I added in to talk about sustaining agencies, nonprofits, and other considerations that we hadn't discussed before, but wanted to spend a little more time with the board on those amounts. So, and once again, in summary, this proposed budget meets the objectives that we have set out to achieve in funding accordance with your priorities and strategic plan, focusing on our employee recruitment and retention, meeting departmental needs, respecting those budget drivers, and ultimately achieving balance. And then also, before we conclude, I'd like to thank again the staff who assisted in preparing this budget, the department heads and the community stakeholders. This budget is truly a team effort, and it reflects the perspectives of many. We have all weekend workshops to answer questions and discuss any aspects of the budget. If there are any burning questions this evening, I can answer them now. And if not, I thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Madam Manager. We look forward to having discussions over the next couple of days. Any urgent questions for Janice? Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, Commissioner.
We're going to start at 8:30, right?
Yes, ma'am. Sharp.
Some refreshments going to be available. That's what I'm talking about.
I'm not sure about refreshments, Catherine.
Yes, we'll have a light breakfast.
They'll have
Okay.
light breakfast and
I just want
some
to know.
strong coffee.
That might help me get up a little bit.
All right.
Mr. Chair, did have one comment.
Commissioner?
For the workshop sessions for the budget, I know that we always have, we have a timeline, but often, sometimes we're running ahead. And I didn't know if maybe, if department heads have been advised, just to make sure that, the time that's there, maybe be there at the start of the one before you, so in case we're ahead of schedule, we're not in a situation where we're waiting around for presentations. I think that might be, but I think that would help things move along.
We are not going to be waiting around because I have a job that I got to get back to, one that pays my bills.
So, but I think that's an easy one, right? If the on deck is in place at the start time of the previous, I think that makes it pretty easy. So
We will. And I'll ask all
Yeah.
staff to be here at 8:30 in the morning each
Okay.
day.
Okay, we will move on to items for report. Back to you, Madam Manager. It's your day.
Yes, we just have my report, which is short this evening. Your next meeting dates, May 5th to the 7th and May 18th. May 5th to the 7th are your budget workshops. May 18th is your next regular meeting. Reminder of the Travel and Tourism Luncheon on May 6th at 11:30 to 1 at the Hilton, which aligns with the proclamation that we read out earlier today. Ribbon cutting and dedication ceremony for the Welding Technology Building at Pitt Community College will be May 13th at 9:30 in the morning. And then a reminder for the NCACC Forum on Healthcare in Jails, which is May 20th in the afternoon at 2 o'clock. It was previously at Beaufort County Community College. I saw an update today that it has been shifted to a virtual session, and it will begin at 2 o'clock. You can register with NCACC. That's all that I have for my report.
Thank you, Madam Manager. Items for consent.
Motion
Do I
to
hear a motion?
approve items.
We've got a motion and a second. Please vote on that. And we'll move on to items for discussion. Tim, you have number one.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. Good to be in front of you tonight. This is a long time coming, the Pitt Area Transit Relocation Project, which, as you recall, we're moving those folks over to the Technology Enterprise Center. We did bid this project with the help of John Farkas and JKF Architecture. We had 6 bids. It was very competitive. All the bids were very close. And the low bidder was Berry Building Group, and their bid was $1,035,000. I want to point out that this is well below the anticipated cost for this project. We had an over $2 million budget when we first presented this to you as far as what we anticipated these costs to be. So very excited that we're going to be under budget. We are asking for a 5% contingency for unknowns during the project for a total budget amendment and contract of $1,086,750. So I'm asking for approval tonight to move forward.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Commissioner, you got a question?
Yes,
Okay.
Does that include the paving out there?
It does not include the paving or the furniture.
Okay, I just wanted.
Yeah, we actually hope to do some improvements. We're working with Kevin Wallace, the director of PATS, to determine if we need a fenced area as well. Once we do the parking improvements, also do like a fenced area for the vans to protect those when they're not in use.
And that's 1,800,
$1,086,750, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Tim. What's the pleasure of the board? Got a motion to approve and a second. Please vote. Okay, thank you. Janice, you have number 2.
Yes, on page 61 of your materials, there's a recommendation for the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council to appoint Anne Marie Miller as the district attorney designee, who will be filling a partial term vacated that will expire December 31st, 2026.
Okay, thank you. What's the pleasure of the board? Got a motion to approve. Here a second. Here a second. Got a second. All right, please vote. All right, and number 3, Madam Manager.
Yep, it has been recommended by the ECU Health Medical Center Nominating Committee to appoint Commissioner Rochelle Brown to the ECU Health Medical Center Board of Trustees to fill the seat vacated by Michael Fitzpatrick.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. Please vote. Okay, awesome, thank you. I will start from my left with Commissioner comments. Commissioner Manning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to mention that on May the 14th, the East Carolina Council Scouting of America is going to host a Distinguished Citizen Award dinner that evening. The Chancellor at ECU, Mr. Philip Rogers, is the honoree, and they asked me to extend an invitation to each member of the board. If you'd like to be there, just let me know. We'll keep a seat up for you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Commissioner Manning. Commissioner Nunley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Briefly, wanted to, just in looking forward at budgetary discussions, it's been a number of weeks ago, but we heard a proposal about what the cost of the demolition of the Chicago school, the historic annex would be. I think at the time what we hear from education, I'd like the board to consider and staff to maybe consider is what it would look like if we reached out to partners, Preservation North Carolina, others, considering the growth in that area of the county, the need for classrooms, if it might be prudent to mothball and preserve space and maybe at a later time renovate it for classroom space, and just kind of kick that idea around. I think the proposed cost for demolition was over $600,000 because of the abatement. And I know that there was some talk about co-locating an EMS location there. I think it's worth also a conversation about whether or not long-term that's a smart strategy. We know that presumably we could find another piece of property to locate an EMS location. But my concern is with schools being peak, subject to 2 peak traffic times every day during the school day, whether or not having an EMS site that would necessitate high-speed response, if that's necessarily the best place to co-locate emergency responding vehicles. Just something to discuss as we move forward into that discussion with education.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Floyd Huggins.
Just want to reiterate what the manager said about looking at the virtual meeting of the NCC.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to thank the manager and her staff for such a fine presentation on the budget. I know we're going to be discussing it further, but to hear no tax increase for the citizens of Pitt County in these times, the needs are certainly good to hear. So I want to certainly congratulate the staff and the manager for that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank the county manager and her staff also for the great work that they've done on the budget, and look forward to being there tomorrow. Also, I would like to say about the Chicago school, one of the reasons that they were tearing it down is I believe it was infested with mold and a lot of other things, and were going to cost a tremendous amount of money. Don't even know if it's worth saving. And to my distinguished colleague, one of the reasons why I kind of wanted the EMS station down there is because it's on NC 43 quick response south-north. You can jump right over on Stokestown, St. John's, get to 118, and you can be back right up to Blackjack. So it is in a good area. I understand that the school system is there. but I also understand that NC 43 is a heavy traveled, and NC 43 and 102 is one of the highest wreck areas, and we don't have an EMS station other than Eastern Pines or Aden after 7 p.m. in that area, and that is one of the fastest growing areas in the county, if not the fastest growing. So that's one of the reasons I would like to see it built there. And not saying I wouldn't want to save the building, I just don't think it's feasible, sir, with the way it is and the deterioration it is. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I would like to say thank you to ECU Health Nominating Committee for that honor, as well as to all of you, my fellow Board of Commissioners, for the honor to continue to serve on ECU Health. I also would like to say thank you to our manager and the wonderful staff for no recommended tax increase as well. And then lastly, in alignment with our strategic plan to be rolled out on May 18th, I would like to suggest a resolution to be started for the consolidation of human services.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner
And that's all I
Brown.
have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Perkins Williams?
I want to share some good news.
Okay, I got it. I just want to share some good news with this board of what happened in my district while I was on vacation. And I thank you for all the time that I used. But I want to say that some residents on Old River Road decide to have a trash pickup without my asking. And I certainly want planning to know that I was so excited to hear when I returned from vacation that they picked up trash from the goat farm all the way up to my office on their own, and Old River Road is still looking good. So I'd like to say thank you to those residents for your love for your community and the appreciation that you have for the progress we're trying to make on keeping Pitt County beautiful and prosperous. The staff never surprises me about what they do on the budget ever since Janice got in, so no need of repeating that. But I wanted to talk about what the residents did for the trash. Thank you all, and I hope some others can take note of that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Holloman? No comment. All right, I think we have a short closed session.
Yes, Mr. Chair, if I may read the grounds. It's been suggested that this body go into closed session under the following grounds. One, to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve attorney-client privilege under North Carolina General Statute 143, 318, 11A3, which privilege is hereby acknowledged. And two, to prevent the disclosure of information that is not considered a public record under North Carolina General Statute 143, 318, 10.
All right. Need a motion and a second going? Got a motion and a second to go into closed session. Thank you.
We're coming back into open.
Okay, welcome back. Do I hear a motion that, for the minutes?
I move that we,
I'll make a motion to approve the closed session minutes for April 13th.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Please vote. And do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Since I was gone? Okay. I don't want to break any rules.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, we have a
I
motion
make
to
a
adjourn. I hear a
second.
second. All right, please vote. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming out, being here, all that good stuff.
And building families is the pursuit of places that promise stability, growth, and ample opportunity for the future.
One of the reasons that parents are leaving urbanized areas to come to Pitt County is because of the community that we have here. There are such great opportunities here.